Hey everybody, this is River Lee. Fun story. I did this entire thing. Whoop. Hey everybody, this is River Lee. So I thought this was already recorded, and I did the entire show live. And for some reason it wasn't connected. So, lucky me, we get to do this all over again. Hi, Peter. So I literally did this entire show thinking it was being broadcasted. And I was like, wow, where is everybody? Oh, they must be busy doing whatever. So this is going to be my second time doing this. So hopefully it'll be even better the second time. And every time I tell anyone to, decide to do a little bit nicer technology, don't think I'm taking any of this lightly, because this has been insane. Every time I think I have figured out this technology, it makes me realize how completely confused I always am. So I already did this entire show, so now we will do it again for your viewing pleasure. So thank you so much, guys, for being here. I appreciate it. Let's roll. So this week's topic is going to be the financial side of COVID-19, which I'm just going to call coronavirus for my own sanity. I know it's technically not the right term, but you'll get over it. So I want to thank everyone for being here live. I see Peter, Shelly, Turquoise Laura, I think it says Diana Dark, and LRJ80. Thank you so much for being here. Again, I literally went live at 7 and I did the entire program, and now we are here, my friends. It's okay. That's just life. So I'm just going to scroll back through my notes and start from the beginning of this podcast show, whatever we are. So first things first, I want to welcome you guys. I appreciate whenever you guys are here live. So when we are talking about the financial side of something as horrific as a pandemic, we have to figure out exactly what we're going to do. This is a crisis. This is a horrific thing that is happening. And a lot of it is just completely out of our control. Deciding what you're going to do for your business is not easy. So first I want to talk to those of you guys who are employees. If you're a W-2 employee, I want to say that you are probably in the best position right now of the grooming industry. The reason why is because due to the legislation changing and funds being allocated, you should be able to have unemployment. And again, this is if you are a W-2 employee. If your employer lets you go, let them let you go. Find out from your local state and your local area what you need to do to file for unemployment. Most of the stuff will be done immediately. I know in my state, I don't know exactly, that's not true. I'm not, as last time I heard, the maximum you can get per month for unemployment was $600 a month. Now, if you're used to making over $1,000 like I was when I was a W-2 employee groomer, then this is going to be a major hit. As you guys know, in my online course, Personal Finance and Unleashed, we talk heavily about, emergency funds. And everyone thinks I'm crazy when I say to employees to have 3 to 6 months worth of an emergency fund. So it's not just because you need 3 months or 6 months. The reason why is, let's say if you're used to making $1,000 and you're going to get $600 from unemployment. First things first, you're only going to get that within a few weeks. Even if they backdate it to the other dates, it's still going to take a little bit of time for them to get it to you. And that's the frustrating part. So that extra money is going to be the buffer to first take care of you until you get the check. And then when you do get the check, to fill in that extra money in order that way you're taken care of and your family's taken care of. We don't know how long we are going to be quarantined. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. I know that there are multiple talks of being quarantined for as much as unemployment. Oh, sorry. LRJ88 is saying is that $600 net, no taxes on that. Now, some states take out money in unemployment and some do not. That is something you're going to have to find out. In Rhode Island, they take that out. So they take out your taxes. So it's $600 before taxes. And that can be not a lot of money, especially if you have high rent. In my area, my rent is very, very high. And so are mortgages. And so some of you guys, if you are the single family household, so like for me, I'm a single mom. For me to lose my income would be devastating. I couldn't even pay my rent. That's not true. I could just pay my rent with that $600. And no, I couldn't because the tax would be taken out. So that wouldn't be enough money for me. Never mind, and hopefully you guys have savings for that to help you get through that. I know some states do not charge taxes on unemployment, same as they don't. Some states charge taxes on child support or alimony. They generally don't, but some do, which I think is kind of asinine, honestly. I think if you're filing for unemployment, you're already down on your luck. So to take the taxes out of that, I think is a little horrific considering you paid into that money and you're just trying to get your money out, or at least your employer paid into that money depending upon what state you were in. So that said, having that extra money is crucial. Now, for those of you guys that are illegal independent contractors, you are self-employed but do not own a business, you are honestly in the worst position possible. You do not have the opportunity to file for W-2. You can file for unemployment even if you're a misclassified employee. It will definitely bankrupt your employer. So I would have a backup plan if you're going to do that for where you're going to go after that. You can fight it and you can do that. You're more than welcome to. But, a lot of you guys know you're misclassified and you still work. And when I was at Atlanta Pet Fair, a lot of people were saying it's basically like having an employment job, but you pay your own taxes. No. In situations like this, being an employee, you would be able to file for unemployment. In a case of a dog biting you really badly, you would file for workers' compensation or temporary disability. There are a lot of things like that. So that's the tough part, because for you guys that are W-2 employees, you can just up and move to another salon. You don't want to, but you can. For those guys that are self-employed groomers, you can definitely move to another salon if you can, but you don't have the buffer of unemployment. And the struggle is as well on the other side. So as a business owner, I get to make the decision. Do I stay open? Do I close? Do I limit my days? Do I limit the way things are running? All of these things. As a 1099, I don't want to say employee because they're not employees. As a 1099 worker, I have no say in what happens in the business. I have to do whatever the owner wants. And then my entire life is surrounded by that. But I don't have the financial safety net of unemployment, or in the case of workers' comp or TDI. So you're really in the worst case scenario. And if you guys are in that terrible in between, now is the time to decide what you're going to do about it. Are you going to go off on your own and open your own business when things settle down? Or are you going to find a legal W-2 position? Because right now, your finances are going to be a lot harder. You should, in a perfect world, if you are self-employed, whether you're a business owner or a 1099 worker, ideally you should have 6 months to a year's worth of expenses saved for a personal side, and if you own a business, on the business side. Everyone always says that I'm crazy when I say this, but in a situation like this, there is no workers' comp and there is no unemployment. So if you right now are going to be out of work for at least 2 months, that does not mean you're going to go back to a full book of dogs. A lot of those people have been out of work for 2 months. And so somebody who's been out of work for 2 months is going to need a few months to financially recover. So some people are going to be okay and they're going to get right back to work. and they're going to have money to get their pet groomed. But a lot of people are going to be financially strapped for several months. So let's say, for instance, you have a personal, 6 months and then a business 6 months. There is no unemployment, so you had to close. You didn't make any money during that time. And then when you get back, now you've got to convince your clients who have a little less money to come back in. If you don't have that money, then it comes down to what we call below the line. So when we're doing our budget, remember it's a zero-based budget, we talk about all of our bills, right? And then at some point when you're doing your bills, you're writing down your bills, there may be a certain amount of money that you have. So let's say you have $2,000 worth of income, which is a nice easy number. And then for a nice easy number, your rent's $1,000, your car's $500, and then because you have a family, it costs you $500 to be fed. Well, that's $2,000 there. Anything else is below the line, which means that it doesn't get paid. Or it gets paid when you get extra money. And in this kind of situation, there may be more things than we like to admit that are going to be below the line. I personally cannot tell you what to do in this pandemic situation. All I can tell you is what I'm going to do, and every state is very different. I am in the state of Rhode Island, which actually had one of the first confirmed cases. I honestly believe that is because we have a large Italian population. And so I know of at least 4 or 5 people personally, maybe not in my immediate circle, but in my second circle, that went to Italy over a February vacation. So we have had, what's ironic is that we had one of the first cases, but Rhode Islanders don't leave Rhode Island. It's a 45-minute long state. So we have currently, I think, 25 cases in Massachusetts, which is up above us. They have Boston, so it makes sense they would have more people. They also have Chinatown, and a lot of people went to China for Chinese New Year and then came back to Boston. So if I had to take a wild guess, I would guess that's why. And they have almost 150 cases, I believe. And again, these numbers could change at any moment, so don't quote me on these. I just watched our governor's address, and it was a little intense. Our bars and our restaurants are closed except for takeout. I did go to my local pizza shop that I love, and I purchased pizza tonight, and I let them know that we will support them the best that we can. I don't generally eat a ton of pizza, but we will because they're a very small business. They've been open a long time, but I want to make sure that, I support them the best I can. But so that said, it's one of those things where things are changing rapidly. When I went to Atlanta Pet Fair, as you guys know, I had a booth, which was very exciting. Yay. I got to meet lots of new people. And if you're one of those new people, welcome. I'm sorry about the hiccup. Seems like every week there's a hiccup. One day there won't be, and you'll be very confused. You'll be like, River's finally got her shit together. I know, it'll be great. Listen, this is how you know it's live. This is how you know it's real. Nothing's perfect. Anyway, so my son is out of school for at least 2 weeks. That 2 weeks is probably going to turn into a month. I know that Washington State is closed for at least through the end of April, which is an entire month. After that, we don't know. There's talk of possibly, God, don't you hate some dogs? Sometimes it's like, grr. Anyway, that's my neighbor's dog. Anyway, so long story short, there's a precedent. Yeah, I know. Can you hear it? My neighbors have these 2 little Shih Tzus, and they like to bother my doggie, and she doesn't bark much, but when she does, she sounds like a man. I always say she's got like a Schwarzenegger voice. I know. They just want to eat her, and she just wants to play with them. 2, right? You can hear both of them. There's 2 Shih Tzus next door. Nothing I can do. Anyway, # real life. there is a vague possibility that they could have the schools closed through the end of the year. Not literally the end of the year, but through the end of the school year. And that's insane. And if that happens, parents are going to be home. If parents are home, unless if they're lucky enough, they will probably realistically be not making as much money, or they may be unemployed. And if they're unemployed, it's going to be a little bit before they find a job. So you don't know what's going to happen. And again, not all of us have emergency funds. If you haven't already checked out my online course, please do. Personal Finance in a Leash is savvygroomer.com/enroll. And that is going to teach you within 12 weeks, within 3 months, by the time this pandemic is over. Hopefully it's over in 3 months. You'll have your finances in a better spot and be prepared for a situation like this. It's really hard to be ready for a situation like this because it seems so surreal. It feels like a bad sci-fi movie. Those of you guys have seen Contagion with Matt Damon, it's actually a pretty decent movie, actually. That one's really good. It's scary and it's hard and it's frustrating. But that said, I am mobile and I only do cats. And so I will be currently continuing to groom. I'm going to groom as long as I can until they basically shut everything down. And the reason I'm going to do that is because my clients are used to it. I do not go into my clients' homes. I have them put their cat in a carrier generally, or hand me their cat, and their cat generally goes right into my van. You guys may have totally different business models, and you may not want to consider doing that. Another reason that I feel very comfortable is because, honestly, I deal with a lot of people who really need them. Yeah, I know, it's funny. LRJ88 just said, "I'll be bark," as in Terminator. It's very funny. Ha ha ha. Anyway, guys, sorry. Long story short, I deal with a lot of cat people. A lot of cat people are elderly people, and I generally hate doing line cuts, but I may be doing a lot of line cuts because there are a lot of people who have compromised immune systems, or they're elderly and they're not my regular clients, but they may need a quick line cut in order to get through the next couple of months because they're probably going to be self-quarantined for quite some time. I don't know how long this is going to be. None of us do. So deciding what's below the line and getting yourself on a written budget. And I know I always harp on your personal budget, and you may be more concerned about your business budget. Your business budget's going to be completely irrelevant if you lose your place to live and your mortgage. If you have nowhere to live, you have nothing to eat, what happens in your business is going to be completely irrelevant. So first things first, cut your personal lifestyle if you have to. Look into more creative ways of doing things. Really sit down and look at it. Some things are out of our control. As you guys know, I have a $600 a month Starbucks fund. That will be donezo. That will be down, because Starbucks isn't going to be as open. So I'll be doing more coffee at home, which really sucks because it's not as tasty as Starbucks is. But because of that, it's not going to be a problem because I know that I'm going to eventually, I do see at some point there will probably be a point where they're going to completely shut us all down and we're going to have to be like stuck in our houses, depending upon how the death rate goes. And right now, the death rate really isn't that high. However, we don't have great data because we don't know if there's a lot of people getting this data or there's not. And so with that, start thinking about ways to get creative cutting things. So I have a very good friend of mine who works for the train, basically the train that goes into Boston. And we were talking all about, because, obviously he called me when they were cutting hours, and some people are going to be what's called furlough, which is laid off, and they don't really get unemployment. Not really, because the way their thing works. So we try to figure out, okay, what is it that you can do? So his rent is $1,800 a month, which in the area is about accurate. So I said, well, you've got two choices. You can either get a roommate or you can find a new place to live, because the math just didn't work. The amount of money that he had saved up and the amount of money that he would be getting, if any, from the furlough, he would go from making basically like $6,000 a month to, if he's lucky, about $2,000 a month. So that's a huge down, and he doesn't personally have any savings. So we did the math, and I said, okay, you'd have to have your rent down here and do this and do that. And so, long story short, he decided that he talked to his landlord, and he explained the situation to his landlord. He said, listen, I want to honor my lease. However, there's a lot of things going on financially. I'm probably going to have this happen. If this happens, what would you like me to do? And he was just very honest and upfront, and he didn't want them to have to worry about it, because let's be honest, we all know that they're probably going to put a freeze on evictions and on foreclosures. The reason they're probably going to put a freeze on it is because they cannot financially afford homeless people during a pandemic. Not financially afford, but health-wise, we can't have more homeless people pooping and defecating and urinating on we're not allowed to touch each other, and get close to each other or even eat next to each other. Never mind people that are literally not showering or taking care of themselves. And I understand that homelessness is something to make fun of. I know that, we don't make fun of homeless people. I'm not laughing at their pain and their unfortunate, but we don't need to add more to that. So I'm guessing they're going to stop evictions, at least in my area. Some people's states are less liberal than mine. My state's very liberal. So that's what they're probably going to do. So landlords would be much more willing to not have to evict somebody and have them not pay rent for 4 months. So if I had to take a wild guess, I would say that's what's going to happen. So anyway, he talked to his landlord. His landlord basically said, give me 30 days notice and you can leave. You will lose your security deposit, but you can leave and pay that month and get out. And he was able to talk to one of his friends who wanted a roommate anyway, and he's going to be able to pay $600, all utilities included. So he went from paying $1,800 for just the rent. They figure add in gas and electric and all those other bills. So probably around like $2,400 a month and all of that. And now he's going to be paying $600 if he does need to do this. Or even he may just do this anyway, because there's an opportunity for him to save up some money in case if this happens later. Because again, we don't know if this is going to be 2 months or 4 months. And I know a lot of us don't have those opportunities, but now is the time to get creative. If you are not in a financial situation where you will be able to financially support your personal life, it's time to get a little creative. And there are a million ways that you can do that. And if you guys want some creative ideas, we can always talk about that in one of our groups and decide how we're best going to tackle that. So Turquoise Laura is saying, you're really on the dad jokes today, LRJA, when you're saying I'll be bark. And LRJ88 said, there's a kid that I'm the father to, and I'm not even sure how'd that come to be. It's pretty funny. And Turquoise Laura says, well, you don't have to give the sperm to be a daddy. Groomer humor. Groomer humor. I love it. This is what happens here. We're having a lot of fun. For those of you guys not live, you're missing all the fun. Anyway, so getting back to the topic. I want to remind you guys that we are all here together. We're all here to think outside the box. Everyone's situation is so different. Make sure your personal and your business finances are separate. Do not keep crossing them over and doing what you're going to do. You need to keep them separate, because if your personal bills need to be cut, those need to be cut first, and then look at your business. Business owners, if you need to fire and lay off your groomers, you need to do that. I'm really sorry. Nothing hurts more than letting someone go. especially when they've been a good, loyal employee, most states have put in place unemployment laws right now, not laws, but funds, federal funds in there that they can immediately start collecting. And right now it's all about keeping your business alive, especially if it's going to eventually be closed anyway. And we don't know for certain. We don't know for certain because it's basically going to go one of two ways. Either this is all going to blow over in 2 weeks and we're all going to laugh about it, or we're probably going to be in quarantine for probably, it's probably going to be, we could be closed for 4 months. Erin is saying, I'm trying not to worry, but it's difficult. I think we all need to have some healthy fear. I think healthy fear is good. I think we all need the numbers in front of us. And again, this is where I strongly suggest Personal Finance on a Leash. If you guys are not in a financial position to purchase Personal Finance on a Leash, then I want to let you know that I am having a sale on that for Corona because I think it would help a lot of people. I also have a free budget, kind of like a budget kickstart. And I know we did the video here on Grow Wealthy Grooming, and then I can send you guys the sheets. I can post that below in the description when I get done with this live. And that'll go over the basics of how to create a personal budget. And I know a lot of you guys, again, are worried about your business. I'm more worried about you guys not becoming homeless and putting food on your table and being okay. If this is a situation where you need to decide what you are willing to do in your business and what you are not willing to do in your business. I have some elderly clients that I may take a post-dated check from, or I may be willing to cut their price. And I am not the kind of person that does discounts. But I love my customers a lot. And I know they're going to be hurting. And on some level, I have to decide what is charity and then what is smart for the business. And that's a very personal line. I need to make sure that I'm not doing it in a codependent way because I'm afraid they're going to leave me. I need to do it because they are financially hurting. That's the hardest part, is figuring out that healthy balance between they need my help and I can give it to them and making sure I put my own food on my table. And that's where knowing my numbers is going to be very important. As you guys know, I've always pointed out the importance of an emergency fund. I don't have personally 6 months to a year worth of emergency fund. In full disclosure, I went to Atlanta Pet Fair, and the basic story of Atlanta Pet Fair is I paid a little less than $2,500 just for the booth. And then I had marketing materials, and then I had a suitcase full of marketing materials that never made it to Atlanta Pet Fair. And they're still not really sure where it is. It's probably being set on fire due to coronavirus, honestly, at some airport somewhere. So I had to buy more marketing materials and, the hotel and the flight. So I would say I probably spent around $4,000, maybe a little bit more to have a booth. And as a small business, it's a large investment for me. And the hard part is we were expecting 3,000 to 5,000 people, maybe even more. And we were lucky if we got 1,200, including vendors and seminars and competitions and judges. If we had 1,200, it would be really lucky. So I had expected to sell some Personal Finance on a Leash to recoup some of my money. Not some, I expected to sell enough to recoup my money and then a little bit. But a lot of that money, this is where, I do my best to walk my walk. And when I don't, it bites me in the ass. So I tell you guys things like this because if you don't do what I say, when I don't do what I say, I get screwed. You get screwed. So, I took out probably an entire month's worth of my emergency fund. I would have had closer to like 5 months if I had not done that. But, now I at least have 3. I have like 3 and change. And because I have that, that's the hard part. LRJ88 is saying, how does it work in your state if you live with someone and you transfer a large sum of money to that person? Say you transfer your own emergency fund to someone else's account. Do you pay tax on it? So in my state of Rhode Island, and again, you always should talk to somebody. Depends on who does your business taxes. I have an EA do mine. You might have a CPA. Be careful. Basically, in my state, you can give a gift of $10,000 or less. If that person lives with you, it gets a little bit in between, because Rhode Island technically sees common law. But if they're married, it's not a problem. You can give your wife or your husband as much money as you want. Within reason, actually. I'm assuming you can give your wife every dime if you really wanted to. It sounds really weird. I'm thinking back to, there was a show called, The Good Place, and one of the characters marries another of the characters so she can legally give him half of her money. And I'm like, was that for taxes or was that because someone stopped her from making a bad decision? I can't remember. But I would, if you work in your state, I would just be careful transferring large sums unless if you're really sure. We don't know how long this is going to go. And as much as you want to help other people, I don't want you to give to somebody else and then not have any for you. And I know it sounds really selfish right now, and I don't want it to, but I want you to be very careful. We don't know how long this is going to go on. And large sum is relative. So as some people have told me anything more than $1,000 is income. And then I have heard anything less than $10,000 as a gift is not taxed. So I would definitely look up the laws, especially because every state changes. And I know federally things are different. And it's so hard to know everything. Chris Leeds would probably be a person who you could talk with better. She runs, I think it's called Tax Questions. Tax Questions for Self-Employed Groomers, I believe is the name of her Facebook group. And she has a lot of information. She is an enrolled agent. And she is definitely way more on top of that stuff than I am, especially in the last couple of years. With everything Trump's done, everything has been changing, and it's so hard to keep track of things. Things that were always steady, like the child care credit, had a household, the way that they were taxing houses as far as interest go was really simple, and now things are a little, I don't know if they're more complicated or I'm just not used to them. I'm not really sure what I'm wrong about. So, and always remember, guys, I'm going to tell you what I know, and always double check, because the truth is that I'm only one person. I'm a groomer. And as a groomer, I don't pretend to be an engineer. I don't pretend to be a tax person. I don't pretend to be a veterinarian. I am just a groomer. A badass cat groomer, but a groomer. Megan is saying, I am in corporate grooming on NYS, and I'm terrified because of it being quickly spreading here. And it's crazy. People are acting like it's an apocalypse, and I'm wearing a med grade mask to work. So the truth is, again, remember, I'm just a groomer giving you my opinion. If you have a compromised immune system, if you have heart problems, lung problems, autoimmune disease, if you are over the age of 60, you should not be leaving your house. You should be Amazoning everything and spraying everything with Lysol. New York State is what NYS. I knew NYC, but I've never seen NYS before, but that makes so much sense. I would assume NY would be the state, but I guess it makes sense because everyone thinks New York like the city. Anyway, yeah, because I can't remember putting like RIS, like Rhode Island State. We're actually we're the state of Rhode Island and Province Plantation. So we have like a name like this, but we're like this big. Anyway. So I think we're all scared because there's not enough information. There's like way too much panic, but there's no information. And so right now I want you guys to all to focus with your finances, because your finances is something you can control. Your money is something that will give you control emotionally in the situation. Knowing that you are okay financially will bring you some comfort. Knowing that you can financially take care of you and your loved ones will make you feel better. Having enough money to be able to order those masks online, be able to put food in here, buy more filters. Guys, buy more filters instead of buying bottles of water. Megan, we are also in the state of Rhode Island. Our bars and our restaurants are closed except for takeout. Our malls are closed. Most retail businesses are closed. Any business or anything with groups of more than 25 are closed. The federal government is saying anything over 10 people. I think a lot of it comes down to people, they don't want the liability. The UK is doing the opposite. This is the thing you have to understand. So, there's Italy, which had a ton of outbreaks, and they did very little for a long time. Again, don't quote me. I believe day 15 is when they started doing it. Versus you had, the UK is only quarantining the sick and the elderly. Everybody else is going about their day. More people will be in financial ruin from this and bankrupt than there will be people who die. I'm more worried about you guys losing your homes, your businesses, your dreams, and being financially ruined than I am with you dying. And I guess it sounds awful. I think there will be some deaths. Hopefully none in the grooming industry. You guys are my family and my friends, and I don't want anyone to die. But people die of the flu. You guys all know that I almost died with my twins. I went into septicemia. Perfectly normal, healthy pregnancy. I went septic. I went into labor. I almost died. And something very routine, we can die. And I think that's why I am both scared, but I'm not scared. I could get sick and die in my car. I could get sick and die anywhere. My ex actually had a situation where they had basically an ingrown hair create MRSA. You never know what's going to get you. This is something where we have to look at our mortality, and that's terrifying. The way people are acting is terrified and scared, and when people have to face their mortality, it's very scary. It's scary to think about your loved ones being helpless to something, and that's where I want you guys, again, to focus on your money, because that is at least something you can control. You can make sure you keep a roof over your head. You can make sure you have food in your belly and food in your cupboards. You can make sure that if there really is going to be an apocalypse, you get a whole lot of bullets. And that's the tough part. Megan is saying, I had savings for my own shop someday, but if I have to use it and miss work, then I guess that's the reality of it. And I hope everyone is just trying their best to be safe. And that's all we can do. Megan, it's one of those things that when I teach in Personal Finance on a Leash is that we need to have a personal fund and then have an additional fund for your business. And all I can say for you guys that are employees is I would talk to work if they're going to cut your hours significantly, that they just let you be laid off. A lot of times it will be more financially better for you. And then they can always hire you back afterwards. And I guess that sounds really shitty. But it's a reality of life. And that's the hard part. It's really sad. And everyone's going to freak out. And it's up to you how much you believe and how much is true. I'm going to go about living my day-to-day life. I'm not saying I'm going to go be crazy like that, but I am, again, I don't want to sound callous or cruel, but I I know what it is like to be on death's door. I remember being very sick and feverish and in labor, and after I gave birth, and I was in the ICU for several days and being on the brink of death. And for me, one thing I learned when my dad died very young. He was 45, and he died of mono to the brain. And basically the infection spread to his brain. And I remember when he died, he had no will. He had no money. We always say we inherited a gumball machine from him. And we didn't want money or anything like that. And we were old enough. But if we had been young, it would have been harder. So I have life insurance for my son. God forbid. That's something that is awful. But everyone should have term life insurance. A, at least enough to bury you, and B, to make sure the people you loved, God forbid something happens to you, they were taken care of. Erin is saying, I joked that I'm being forced to save money and cook at home because I can't go out to eat. Girl, I'm being forced to eat coffee from home. And the worst part is I have an espresso machine. I just want them to make my coffee. It makes me very happy. So on some level, a lot of us are going to save money, and then on some of us are going to lose a lot of money. But there is also a great time to start creating positive habits. If you're not going to be working a lot, you're going to have a lot of time to do good habits. If you are working right now, start saving that money and start cutting things. I know I went a little off topic. I just want to make sure that everybody is okay. And I understand it's a scary time. It's a scary time because we don't have any control. We have no way of knowing what is going to happen. We could be stuck in quarantine for months. Thank God we have the internet. Or we could be over in 2 weeks. We won't know. It's going to depend upon how many people die. And we don't know if what we're doing is actually going to help people or not. Unfortunately. Only time will tell that. If you believe in God, pray. If you believe in holistic and laws of attraction, talk to the universe. If you don't believe in anything, then, just get your head on straight and feel logical. Whatever it is you believe, put out positive thoughts. I am not going to let myself be consumed with fear because, I do have a will in place. I know my son will be okay with his insurance. And if you guys don't have life insurance, get some. If you don't have short and long-term disability, get some. These are the things to have in place. And you may have to make some hard choices in your business. And there are some things that are wise to get out of your business and some things are smart. One thing I keep mentioning is I have 123pet for my online. I have cloud-based. Who's my flaky? My appointment book. And let me tell you, if I got rid of that, I would lose a ton of years of business because I have not only, Rhode Island Cat Grooming, but I have Sheer Bliss, which is what I owned before Rhode Island Cat Grooming when I was doing mobile dogs and cats. And even before that, I have, I'm sure, a file of, the Green Paw Spa, which I will pull up sometimes to look at the differences between when I had my regular salon and then when I had my membership model. So don't delete things like that because then you're going to have to input all of your customers all over again. And that would be a nightmare, But now is the time to call places and see if they'll do deals. Is there a way, if you pay 6 months in advance, maybe they'll give you 2 months off. What will they be willing to do? We don't know. Now is the time to get creative and it is what it is. And the main thing, like as always, and you guys have heard me say this a million times, is separate your personal and your business. When they're squashed together, it's a problem. So guys, if you have any more questions, I would love to talk about them and, dig a little deeper. I know we're all scared. I know Mary Aquindo is doing her own more in depth on that side, but I want to talk about the financial side because I know a lot of us we don't have a lot of information, but what we can do is take care of ourselves financially and make sure that we are okay financially. So I want to talk really quick, as always, about now that I can't make it open, my membership program. As you guys know, I have Grow Wealthy Grooming membership, where last month we talked about how best to organize your business. So whether to do a DBA or an LLC, how to get your office space organized and prepped so that we actually do all of that business stuff. So that is still currently only $10 a month. This month we talked about difficult clients and how best to deal with them and having scripts and things like that. Even now, that will be very helpful, getting a script down if you do have to close and how you're best going to deal with this situation. Not everyone is going to understand why you are closing your business because, let's be honest, they're probably an asshole. But, that is just the reality. Some people are reasonable and some people are just not. We also have our online course, Personal Finance on a Leash, which teaches you about personal finance. I will be having a sale for this for a very short period of time, till only April 1st. For those of you guys that want to spend the time doing, basically if you're on lockdown anyway, you can start getting Personal Finance on a Leash done. It is a 12-week course, so hopefully we're not done that entire time, but it will be a discount code down below. It is normally $600, and this will be sorry, just losing my mind. Don't mind me, you know how it goes. To be able to start that. I know I'm always trying to fix this thing and it just wants to be very silly. See, there I am again. The kitten buttons. I'm like, why won't you just work? And it's like, nah. Where's the fun in that, right? But I have had a great time with you guys. As always, I apologize. I literally did an entire video and now I'm trying to remember everything I did say. And I'm not quite sure which was the first take or the second take. So hopefully this one came out really well. And I was awesome in it. But, this is going to be a crazy time. We need to figure out what we're going to do financially. These are some great options. And if you guys want to do more, remember you have lots of free resources as well. Not only do you guys have our paid membership, Grow Wealthy Grooming, our paid online course, Personal Finance on a Leash, but you also have access to all of the Grow Wealthy Grooming videos. You have my blogs, which are also, can I say, pretty damn good. And then we have 2 different webinars. I will probably be doing our webinars again live. So that way, you can figure out what it is that you want to do with your time if you have some extra time. And maybe it's just sleeping and catching up on business stuff. I would definitely take advantage of if you guys have to be out of work for a few weeks and go ahead and get some new stuff done. But I want to say thank you so much again for being here. It has been a pleasure, where we talked a little bit more about the financial side of COVID-19, which I keep calling the coronavirus, which is technically not correct, but this is me caring. So thank you guys so much for being here. I will see you next week, probably Monday at 7 p.m. I was supposed to go to the CFMG beach retreat. However, I do not know if I will be going to the beach retreat because it is in Myrtle Beach and we have a pandemic going on. So, depending upon how that goes, I will either be here right at 7 p.m. or I will put up a notice in the Savvy Groomer page letting you know that I will not be here at 7 p.m. For various reasons. A, I may be traveling still on a plane if my planes keep getting canceled. Or B, if I get to the beach retreat and I have almost no signal. That did happen last year where when I got there, I basically had zero Wi-Fi. Some people had better Wi-Fi, and I was like, this is bullshit. It was not fair. I don't know how they did it. They probably had one of those like portable ones, but I did not. So anyway, guys, always lovely to see you. Thank you for dealing with me, and I hope the second one was as good as my first. So guys, thank you again. Shelly's saying, saving money for business. I had $2,000. Then my transmission went out 4,400. I lost a month of work. It helped. So having an emergency fund is always going to help you. It's just a matter of how much you have. I always suggest personal, 6 months to a year if you're a business owner. And then if you're a business owner, not only do you have your personal money set aside, but your business, you would have six months to a year. And most of the time, I find that people really do have, like, weirdly less bills in their business. Like, unless if you live, maybe it's because I live in an expensive area, but like my personal bills are like $4,000, $6,000. And then my business bills are like $2,000, like $2,500. So I'm glad this was a great topic, guys. If you want to know more, feel free to go ahead and comment. And you have all the resources that you will need. And I really appreciate you all being here. And Shelly, go ahead and email me again if that problem was not solved. I did see that. And I follow it up a little bit. And if you need me to go in and help you with that, then I will definitely help you with that as soon as possible. All right, guys. As always, happy grooming.